All eyes are on Venezuela right now, and Venezuela's impact on the Caribbean nations, from energy to trade and other things, are very concerning, especially Eastern Caribbean nations. So that's the question I have: is all 6 countries of the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States are members of the Bolivarian Alliance, known as ALBA, which includes efforts to promote regional cooperation and alleviate poverty. So to what extent have ALBA and PetroCaribe increased Venezuela's influence in the Caribbean? I think I can answer that question tremendously. What effect will it have with the waning influence of Venezuela, given the nature of the Maduro government and the issues with energy and the issues with poverty, food security, and that sort of thing? So, Eric, let's just delve into how Venezuela and the situation there is actually going to impact, especially the Eastern Caribbean ALBA countries.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, and I agree. It is the pregnant issue, if you will, of the region. Venezuela is a country that's in collapse. Economically, some are saying it's no longer a democracy. It's a country that has severe and lasting internal problems, which is going to take years to get beyond. And so the relationship that Venezuela has developed with a number of countries of the Caribbean in good times has become strained, because the largesse that Venezuela has been able to frankly give away or to provide on concessionary terms has been much constrained in the current environment. You talk to Caribbean leaders and they say, we're not big fans of the Venezuelan regime, but if they're giving us free stuff, why not take it? And I think that's, in some ways, it's very much a commercial relationship, or it has been a commercial relationship. I guess what I would say is, in the current environment, because of the troubles that Venezuela is having, and frankly because of the opportunities that we have in the United States through the entire revolution of energy that we've seen in our own country over the last several years, we have an opportunity to come in to the Caribbean as a partner and say, look, the programs and the activities that you may have been doing with Venezuela are no longer relevant, and we can provide the same things that you need without the political, without the ideological overhang that you might have had previously.
Let me ask you something about that. Is there enough trust of the United States or for us to step into that void with those countries? And that's a question. I don't know the answer to that.
Well, I think in the current environment, we need to do some groundwork. We need to do some spade work. I mean, look, PetroCaribe was a very successful program, and we understand why. I mean, it was timely. It provided something that the leaders needed when they needed it. It was symbolic. It was very, very easy to explain to people. I mean, we're getting oil from Venezuela. It was focused. It was on one issue. And I think sometimes when the United States engages with the countries of the Caribbean, we have a lot of well-meaning programs and wonderful ideas, but they're diluted, right? Not diluted, but diluted in terms of the effort and the focus. Under PetroCaribe, it was one product, easily explained, highly symbolic, and people said Venezuela's our friend. And I think what we need to do better from the United States perspective is to build that level of trust through an ongoing, sustained engagement with the region, so that people can say, look, we do trust you, we do take this partnership on the terms in which it's offered, because it's mutually beneficial.
I personally think energy is a great opportunity for us, no doubt about that. Let me delve into money laundering and terrorism financing a little bit. There's a big push by the U.S. to have U.S. banks sever relationship with Caribbean-based banking institutions. Does that policy work to reduce money laundering and opportunities for terrorist organizations to access the financial system? And that's probably to silence. So.
In a lot of ways, it does the opposite, because once U.S. banks move out of the region, what you've created, in fact, is a void. And that becomes filled by other institutions. And there are anecdotal accounts of people, when taking remittances between jurisdictions, have to carry that in cash in a suitcase. So what's being created is a situation where there's more opportunity for terrorist financing, or something to go wrong and somebody to exploit that void. So I would say that the U.S. banks absolutely need to be a key and vital player in the regional money system.
Yeah. I'm probably less concerned, and maybe I shouldn't be, but less concerned about terrorism financing through the Caribbean financial institutions as I am about money laundering. I mean, we just saw in Panama a huge $800 million money laundering scheme, real estate involvement, huge number of employees involved, a legitimate business, still money laundering scheme. And so I want to make sure that we're cognizant of the possibility in the Caribbean nations as well.
Part of the issue is the perception of risk versus the reality of the risks. Banks are not leaving the Caribbean because there is money laundering. Banks are leaving the Caribbean because the costs of compliance are overwhelmingly stacked against the banking system. You've got small jurisdictions, and for every account that you're dealing with, you have to put a huge amount of money into making sure that the cost of that the business is clean. But what we have to do, in effect, is create a system where the regulators, the banks, everybody is working together, information is being shared, and when information is passed between the regulators and the Treasury or the regulators and the banks, people know where the voids are. What we need to also do is see what the technology, the tools that are out there that can create better compliance, that can, the blockchain and other things that can build a more stable and more verifiable, transparent banking system. And the problem in the Caribbean is that the economies are small. Putting these systems in place costs a lot, but all the Caribbean will tell you that they meet the compliance regulations, and so there's a disconnect between what is actually happening and what people are saying is happening. I think one of the common complaints is the breakdown between what is going on in offshore financial services and what is going on in banking. And the Panama Papers were very largely linked to the offshore financial services industry versus the correspondent banking and de-risking issue that is currently being faced. And so that break needs to be made so we can tackle the problem at hand, which is the ability to move money back and forth in a clean, transparent manner.
I'm assuming the federal government is monitoring if Panama Papers, individuals that were implicated in that start shifting financial resources around possibly the Caribbean nation. I'm assuming our Treasury and FBI are monitoring that. I would assume. So I'm gonna go ahead and yield to the ranking member.